Meeting of the New Hanover County Board of Education to order. It is 5:30 on Tuesday, May 5th. Again, I would like to welcome everyone who is here. We have just a few people here in person, and most of you are here virtually. I would like to state that attendance will be strictly limited to no more than 10 people, which is recommended currently by the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention. And the general public does have the option at this time to view remotely via live streaming on Roku, Apple TV, and online at NHCS TV. And to those of you that are tuning in, again, thank you and welcome. So at this time, I would like to ask everyone to stand for a moment of reflection and for the Pledge of Allegiance. Thank you. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, Ms. Adams, would you please call the roll?
Lisa Eastep.
Here.
David Wortman.
Here.
Stephanie Adams.
Here.
Nelson Beaulieu.
Here.
Judy Justice. Miss Justice.
Here.
Jeanette Nichols. Miss Nichols. Bill Rivenbark.
Thank you. We do have a quorum. At this time, I would like to ask for a motion to go into closed session pursuant to North Carolina General Statute 143-318-11A3 to consult with the board's attorney to preserve attorney-client privileged information, including the cases captioned Dante Murphy versus Bullard and the New Hanover County Board of Education, New Hanover County District Court Case Number 20, CV 783, John Doe versus New Hanover County Board of Education et al. New Hanover County Superior Court Case Number 19, CVS 2745, Jane Doe versus New Hanover County Board of Education et al. New Hanover County Superior Court Case Number 20, CVS 1395, and New Hanover County Board of Education versus Stein, Supreme Court of North Carolina, Case Number 339. A18. Is there a motion to go into closed session?
So moved.
May I ask who made that
David.
motion?
David.
Mr. Wortman made the motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Who made the second?
Judy.
Ms.
Justice.
Justice made the second. So there's a motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Before I say this, let me also, for the record, note that Mr. Rivenbark did just join the meeting, but we are now in closed session. Thank you very much. All right, we will reconvene the regular part of the Board of Education meeting. I would like to call roll again so we can make sure who is, for board members, who is on.
Lisa Eastep.
Here.
David Wortman.
Here.
Stephanie Adams.
Here.
Nelson Beaulieu.
Here.
Judy Justice. Judy Justice. Miss Justice.
We can hear you now.
Thank you. Jeanette Nichols? Miss Nichols? Bill Rivenbark?
Here.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you. We are on item number 2, approval of the minutes. Get to that screen. So I would like to ask for the approval for the interim meeting minutes from March 31st, 2020. Is there a motion to approve those minutes? I'm sorry, everybody is muted.
Move to approve.
All right, there's a motion for Mr. Bullier, there's a second from Ms. Adams. All right, Ms. Adams, is there any discussion? Hearing none, Ms. Adams, how do you vote?
Aye.
Mr. Bullier, how do you vote?
Aye.
Ms. Justice, how do you vote?
Aye.
Is Ms. Nichols on the call?
I don't think so.
Okay, Mr. Rivenbark, how do you vote?
Aye.
Mr. Wortman, how do you vote?
Aye.
And I vote aye. It is unanimous with Ms. Nichols not participating as of yet. Moving on to regular meeting minutes from April 14th, 2020. Is there a motion to approve those minutes?
Move to approve.
There's a motion for Mr. Bullier. Is there a second?
Stephanie Adams, second.
There's a second for Ms. Adams. Any discussion or changes? Hearing none. Ms. Adams, how do you vote?
Aye.
Mr. Bullier?
Aye.
Ms. Justice?
Aye.
Ms. Nichols? Still not available. Mr. Rivenbark?
Aye.
Mr. Wortman?
Aye.
And I am an aye. It is unanimous with Ms. Nichols not available. That is it for item number 2. Item 3, call to the audience. Due to the CDC requirement to social distance and the requirement to hold meetings with 10 or less participants, a process has been put into place so that citizens may participate in the call to the audience portion of the meeting. Comments will be pre-recorded for remote meetings. While the board welcomes residents to share their views, the community is reminded that each speaker is limited to 3 minutes. Comments shall not be slanderous or personal in nature. At this time, we have not had anyone call to record any comments. So we will move on to item number 4, Head Start. Item A, Head Start Liaison Report. Mr. Bullier?
Thank you, Madam Chair. We have a couple of things for you this evening, apart from our regular liaison report. First, we have our, we'll do the annual report first, if you can pull that up. Thank you very much. As a monthly reminder, we're always a little bit behind, so things look a little funny, but we are on track, as always, to meet our goals, thanks to our leadership team at Head Start. And I'll be happy to answer any budget questions, or Ms. Smiles, again, she is available.
Is Ms. Smiles on the call?
Yes.
Okay. How has, I'd like her to speak for just a minute on how she, her program has been impacted by going remotely. I would think that would be very difficult for our smallest of learners. So if she could just speak for a minute to that.
Please.
Good evening. Can everybody hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
had to route to is an online application. That was one of our greatest fear, not only keeping in communication with our families, but also how are we going to continue our enrollment for next school year. So we've created an online application that's working quite well for us. And we've also created a one document that teachers use to contact our families, so that every time they have a point of contact that we can record that for data in the future and for ongoing data to report to our multiple funding sources. So as we know, the Zoom and the other platforms are very challenging for our preschool families. We have stayed in contact with them, and we have had 400 families apply. And most of those have been online now in the last 2 months. So what we're doing is different, but it's working. And what we've learned through it is that we want to continue that even when we come out of these uncertain times. So we were kind of baffled by that a little bit, because we were thinking it was going to be much more challenging, which I'm sure there will be more. But again, it's just not seeing our little ones and being able to connect with them on a daily basis. We do know that most of them are tapping into our food sources. So we're glad to have that.
All right, thank you.
And we will, part of the CARES Act gave us an opportunity to apply for a grant. And so if we can, we'll just move on to that appendix and come back to the COLA appendix.
So we're moving on to item C.
Yep, coronavirus aid relief. So as everybody knows, the CARES Act was passed. Some of us have received our $1,200. Some of us have received less, more, depending on kids. But Head Start's about a head start, and that's exactly what some of these kids are missing. And so what we bring before you tonight is an opportunity for us through the CARES Act to apply for a grant to increase some instruction over the summertime. We don't know if we'll get it or not, but we do need board approval to apply for it, and that's exactly what we're recommending. And Ms. Miles, if you want to add something, please.
What we would like to do is anytime supplemental funds come towards our district, we'd like to apply for those. And this is a perfect opportunity if we get that chance. Right now, we do not know what that looks like. It changes every day, but we'd like to mirror a lot like what we've done previously in our district with those kiddos transitioning to kindergarten, to get them into school as soon as we can, as close to the beginning of the year as we can.
Okay, so this is an action item. So we would need a motion to approve item number C, the CARES Act grant funding request. Is there a motion?
So moved. David.
All right, Mr. Wortman has made the motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Second from Mr. Rivenbark.
Yes, ma'am.
All right. Ms. Adams, how do you vote?
Aye.
Aye from Ms. Adams. Mr. Bullier?
I vote aye.
Aye from Mr. Bullier. Ms. Justice?
Aye.
Aye. Is Ms. Nichols with us yet? No? Okay. Mr. Rivenbark?
Aye.
Aye. Mr. Wortman?
Aye.
Aye. And I vote aye. So it is unanimous with the exception of Ms. Nichols, who is not with us. All right, the motion passes 6-0.
Okay, now if we could move on to the cost of living. Thank you very much. Every year, or most years, cost of living increases are a fact of life, but we still need permission from the board to use those increases for salary, which is what we are asking to do. And again, Ms. Miles can answer any questions.
So if I could direct your attention to the budget categories, summary. Thank you very much. This is $109,900 towards personnel and fringe benefits. As we know in previous years, Head Start, we do not receive the full funding to pay state salaries, and we have to do multiple fundings to make that happen and move monies around to make that happen, and this will help with the shortage for fringe benefits and personnel.
Okay, so this is also an action item. Is there a motion to approve item number B, the cost of living adjustment recommendation?
So moved. David.
Mr. Wortman makes the motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Ms. Justice makes the second. Ms. Adams, how do you vote?
Aye.
Mr. Bullier?
Aye.
Aye. Ms. Justice?
Aye.
Again, Ms. Nichols, not here. Mr. Rivenbark?
Aye.
Mr. Wortman?
Aye.
And I vote aye. So it is a unanimous 6-0 vote with Ms. Nichols not available. All right. Mr. Bullier?
Except for our numbers, which are still 260 funded enrollment, this concludes this month's Head Start Liaison Report. And Ms. Smiles, thank you very much for sharing some of what your staff are doing to connect to those hard-to-reach learners.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Bullier. Thank you, Ms. Smiles. All right. Item 5, information. Item A, superintendent search process. Allison Schaefer, welcome. And I see you have Mr. O'Rourke with
Thank
you.
you. Yes, Jim and I are both here. We're glad to be before you to present information about your public input section of your superintendent search service. We're very pleased, and we have a short PowerPoint which we're going to run for you. We're very pleased with the results. Next slide, Jim. That we got for you, or that you got, your people got for themselves. The surveys were completed and submitted to us by April 20, 2020, of course. And you had some really great numbers of people responding to your surveys online. And given the circumstances we find ourselves in, that was, you had really good numbers, given everyone's life has been turned upside down. So, you know, they took the time to participate. You had community folks, 507 actually replied, including 13 Spanish surveys. And then we had finishing them 493. It is every single time we do this, we get more people start than finish. That's just the way it goes. So that's not a surprise. We always have some people that give up in the middle. You also had 273 comments, which is very good information for the board. So people could, at the end of the survey, write in anything that they felt like they wanted to say that wasn't covered by the survey. You got even better staff numbers. That we've rarely seen as high a number as 830 starting the survey and 807 finish. So that's really, really good. And you also had 271 comments. Keep in mind what this is. This is an opportunity for people who want to say something to the board. And to the public out there listening and the staff, we want to make sure you understand the board got all of the information and all of the comments that were submitted. There is a public version that we have provided to the board for the press and the public that you can get a copy of, with comments redacted that have to be redacted by law to keep confidential personnel information confidential. But the version the board has on a protected site will include all the comments, including people in comments made about specific people. So we just wanted to make that really clear. But all this is an excellent number, especially under the circumstances. So we did a community survey and a staff survey. There were different surveys. A lot of times boards do the same, an identical survey, but do them separately so you can compare and contrast the staff and community. However, the board did different surveys for these two groups of people. So the community survey, you had, we asked a demographic question, which is how many had children attending school. And you can see 61% of the respondents had children attending school and 38% did not. So you had some of both. In the community, we also asked how many people, or what grade, if you had children in the school, what grade levels. And as you see, a few at pre-K, the most in elementary, the next most in high school, and then in middle school is lower than both of those. And that is pretty consistent with the numbers enrolled in each of those grade spans, because you have more elementary kids because it's more grades, and then you have more high school than middle school because it's more grades. So that's pretty consistent across the board. Sometimes we see the numbers drop off in high school, but you guys had good high school participation. This is the Spanish survey. Again, you had, of those who responded, 84% had children in the schools and 15% did not. And most of the Spanish surveys had children. There were 16, so 10 of those folks had children in elementary school, 6 in middle, and then 3 in high school. So the high school numbers did drop off there. Okay, so the community was asked to pick the things that they felt were most important to least important. And they rated a bunch of different categories. So the communities, we're just gonna talk, for purposes of this presentation today, we're just gonna talk about the things that were most important to your different groups. The board has been given a more complete survey that ranks everything that was asked in the survey. So if you could, next one, there you go. Could have, so the community results showed that the most important criterion for the community was someone who communicates well with people of all races and socioeconomic status. And you will see that theme carried out in the results. That was the #1 criterion for your community. Number 2 was understanding how to provide safe environments for students and staff. Number 3 was how to get staff, students, parents, and community to work together to help children learn. So cooperation and working, communication, safety, cooperation and working together. Number 4 was have strong human relations or people skills. And number 5 was how to effectively advocate for resources needed to operate the schools. Number 6 was communicates well with all community groups. Communication is the theme you'll see going on through a lot of these results. Number 7 is should be accessible and respond to concerns. Number 8 is able to work to close the achievement gap. And number 9 is understanding research-based program. Number 10 is willing to take new approaches to teaching and learning. So this is a little different than we often see in these surveys. The instructional issues are actually 9 and 10. There are other issues that your community feels strongly about that took precedence over that, over the instructional issues, and those are enumerated above. So that sends a clear message about what the community, the folks who responded are concerned about. Okay, next. The staff survey, we asked who was responding. So administrators were under 100. By far and away, the most respondents, over 500, were teachers. And then support staff, you had over 200 responding. That's pretty consistent with the numbers in those different jobs, so that you have most of your staff, or a huge percentage of your staff is teachers. So that's pretty consistent that they would be the most, the largest group responding. So we asked what grade levels they were in, and again, you see this is pretty representative of your school community. Elementary school is 55%, middle school is 21%, and high school is 22%. So you'll see that that's well spread across the different school grade levels. So we asked what the strengths, for them to give us the top 5 strengths of the New Hanover County schools according to the staff. They thought they were the best strength. So we see that often. Excellent teachers and staff was number 1. A supportive community was number 2, and that's great. Location of school system, you've got a great location there. Student achievement was number 4, and available resources 5. So they felt like, well, you have good people working for you, a supportive community, a great place to live, high student achievement, and available resources. Those were great strengths. And the foundation of really what you need to see in a school district. So we also asked about the top skills and expertise that they wanted in a superintendent. Educational leadership was number 1, so academic leadership. Communication with parents and community was number 2. Staff relations was number 3. Managing a diverse student body was number 4. And interpersonal and public relations skills were number 5. Again, communication and equity seem to be a big theme through here. In terms of traits that they wanted to see, number 1 was values employees. And we actually see that in staff results often, that there's a lot of emphasis on working with employees. And so you'll see that that's really at the top of their list. Integrity is really high. Commitment to high student achievement, commitment to community, and being proactive, which I thought was a really interesting one to rank that high. So then we had them rank things that were mandatory versus not important on several items, and we're going to go through those real quick. This was really interesting. So experience as a classroom teacher was the number 1 qualification that your staff felt was important. Then followed closely by experience as a superintendent with a proven track record of success. And number 3, experience as a principal. Your top 3 categories of qualifications that folks were seeking were people who have come up through the ranks, been teachers, been principals, and been a superintendent, if possible. And so that tells you that that experience is very important to your staff, somebody who is from the traditional education setting. Number 4 is experience in finance budgets and acquiring funding in this day and age. Not a surprising result. And then experience in instruction and curriculum development was number 5. Characteristics the staff was looking for was inspiring trust and having high levels of self-confidence and optimism, integrity, and high standards for personal performance. That was number 1. Number 2 was willing to listen to input but can make tough decisions. Number 3 was possessing excellent people skills and presenting a positive image of the school system. Number 4 was effective communication skills, including speaking, listening, and writing. Again, the communication piece was well woven through here a lot. And then number 5 was the ability to develop and communicate a vision of quality education for the future. So those were interesting. The last thing that we wanted to present to you is that we had a number of organizations submit statements, which is great. This is more than we normally see. So you had a group of folks that wrote documents and presented them to the board. That's part of the information that was presented to the board. So I want to assure all the groups out there that submitted comments or letters or statements that their full comments were submitted to the board and are public records. So they will be shared as part of the packet of information that the press can get access to through the administrative, the board's assistant there. So we heard from Cape Fear Collective, Concerned Parents and Citizens 2020, the Myrtle Grove Middle School Task Force, New Hanover for All, the New Hanover County Principals and Assistant Principals Association, an individual retired teacher, and then the Links Incorporated. And again, all those statements are part of the packet that is available to the public. It's great. We had a student group commenting. We rarely see that, but that was really exciting. So, and I have extended thanks on behalf of the board to each and every one of these groups that has presented a statement. They took the time, these groups, to meet, their leadership to meet and share with their memberships and get input from their memberships information. So that actually reached a lot more people by doing it that way. And it was nice to see your principals and assistant principals make a statement too. That's what we have for the board in terms of the survey information. What we want to do now is just sort of briefly have the board talk about what it's looking for in the superintendent. And so, informed by what your community and your staff want, it's important for you guys to articulate for your community now and your staff what you think is important, informed by all this information that you've received, and it's a lot of information. So I'm going to open it up, and we're going to take notes, and we're going to use this information to help you draft questions, to help you draft a sample rating sheet, and basically use this throughout the process for you to consider. So with no further ado, I'll let the board members speak about what you would like to see and what are your priorities, and we will put that into a document and get that back to you.
Well, for me personally, one thing I don't think you can fix is ethics and personal integrity, and I think that's really where my focus is. I think people coming into this position should have really good experience. A lot of that stuff is, you know, good candidates are good candidates, and their resumes might differentiate, but in a lot of ways they're comparable at that level. I really would like to design a question to ask about an ethical viewpoint, an ethical standard.
Okay. Who would like to speak next?
Communication. I think that has come through in both surveys, that is a very important piece, both to communicate the community and to our staff, that and it's important to our board. We've said over and over again that that is a piece that we value. Our community obviously values it. Our staff obviously value it. I think we have to be mindful of that.
I would add in a collaborative and accessible servant leader. I think that's very important, and that theme came across. I read every comment from the community and every comment from our New Hanover County Schools employees, and servant leadership seemed to be a recurring theme. And also, if I can add to that too, equity focused. It seems that there is a definite interest and focus in moving forward with equitable practices across our district, which I'm thrilled to see that aligns with a lot of the work that we're trying to do. So definitely an equity focused leader.
I would like for the new superintendent to be accessible to teachers, principals, assistant principals, staff, whoever, without fear of retaliation. I think anybody that works for us ought to be able to sit down and talk to the superintendent. I think that's very important.
We obviously have some areas of need also in this county that we have to be mindful of. We have holes that we need to fill, particularly in HR. So I think that the next superintendent has to be strong in certain areas. And so we have to look to experience in those areas.
And I don't know if you heard me previously, the survey was great, and it's pretty much saying everything that we're saying in pretty much the order that we're saying. I really don't have a lot to add. It's a really good feel for what it is that we need, and the experience part and the integrity part and the ability to talk to the different communities and provide them with quality education, supporting the staff. It goes on, and those are in those surveys.
I think too that our new superintendent will face challenges that we've never thought about. With the COVID-19, the issues, the change in the approach of educating our children. So yes, we've been given a task and we know what the community wants, but we also have a great deal of new issues to address.
A word that I think is important to include is brave. There continue to be comments about being able to stand up to how it always has been and forging a new path. And so someone that is not afraid to take that stand and say, we're going to try things differently. So brave, I believe, and innovation are two of those themes that are important.
And interestingly enough, it didn't show up on the little PowerPoint that we did, but keeping the same direction of the school system was the last thing that folks chose as being important. So there is a desire out there to see that things do change. And
I noticed that.
Yes. I just wanted to point that out since it wasn't what I presented.
Well, this is very powerful. It says that the community is very aware of what they need, what we need, in order to go forward with support. We need community support and trust. We've lost a lot of that. And the staff, they're great, and the schools are great. So we need to bring everybody together. It's the way to do it. Good superintendent.
I'm not sure if this is how to put this in, but there was a quote that one of the employees had said, "Support and value teachers, fight for us like we fight for our students."
Very good.
I thought that was very telling, and so I think that New Hanover County Schools is looking for a leader that has their back and is going to value keeps coming up, but I love that, fight for us like we fight for our students, because our educators do that every day.
Absolutely.
They deserve a leader that will do the same.
Anybody else have anything, any other input that you want to add? This is a good list of really important things, and I do think you guys got really great and interesting results on your surveys that told you a lot. We don't attempt to characterize the comments at the end because they speak for themselves, and the board members, as I said, have been provided with all of those and have an opportunity to read all of those. So I know the board would like to thank everybody who took the time to respond, to submit statements. I think there was a lot of effort to communicate with the board. That's very helpful for you all, so I hope you can find it useful. So we will take this back and we will develop some tools that will incorporate these things that you all are interested in. I just want to update you a little on where we are. Your deadline for your applications is May 11, which is coming up next week. We are having a lot of interest. I'm not going to report on numbers at this point because that changes all the time, but we are seeing good interest in your position, which is great. We will get the board, we have to prepare the packets and download the applications and upload them and add a bunch of information, and we will make those and release those to the board, to the website where we post them on May 22nd. And then we are looking for, on the timelines here, but we're looking to give you some time to look at them, a couple weeks, and then we're looking at a potential meeting on the 4th of June for you to decide when you are going to, or who you are going to interview, and that will be a closed session meeting. So this is the last time that we will present an open session, and with me is Jim O'Rourke, you can see him picture is working with me, and this is the last time we will do an open session presentation. That's why we really wanted this to be this information be available to your public, but now it will be into closed sessions where you actually start to consider the applicants. We will make everything available to you. We don't screen and we don't recommend specific people. Our job is to get you good candidates and good information about them. One of the things that we do is do an internet search on each candidate, so it's not just what the candidate has submitted, but also what's out there publicly available, so you know, and that will be included in your material as you look through them. So there should be some tools in there also. We do what we call an experience chart, just kind of tells you how much experience folks have at their highest level of positions, and if they've been a superintendent, how many times, in what districts, how many years, how large their districts, just try to give you a kind of a memory sheet for you to go through and use. So there'll be tools in that information as well. Yes, sir.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
That's all right, go ahead.
I just, what area are we looking at as far as, is it nationwide or North Carolina or?
Nationwide. Yeah,
okay.
We have nationwide. And again, I remember I told you this when I spoke to you when we started this process, but you know, normally for smaller districts, we're looking at, 15 applications as being a good number. It's not going to be hundreds. It's going to be in the 30 range probably. So you don't need to expect, hundreds of applications. This is a very specialized position, but we have had a lot of interest. It's a great position, and it's a great school system. It's a great place to live. And so I think folks are coming at it, looking at it as a great opportunity. So we're really proud of the efforts that we have made on our staff to get the word out and encourage people to apply, and we think that's coming to fruit at this point, so that's good.
Thank you, Ms. Shepherd.
So
Mr. O'Rourke, thank you very much for all your work.
our pleasure, and we look forward to seeing you on the 6th, but you'll be getting communications from Jim and me in the meantime, and you will be getting the documents posted to the confidential website that you have been given access codes to. If you don't have them yet, we'll make sure you get them. I don't know if we all have them all. Jim, has everybody been contacted about that?
I think we've reached out to everybody at this point, and so if you haven't had a chance to talk to Chelsea and get your username and login password, please reach out to either me or Chelsea directly, and we'll get it to you definitely before we release the applications on the 22nd.
And we will send you an email that just says the information is waiting for you. Remember to keep your passwords very confidential and keep that information confidential. All those documents are protected by law, and it's a criminal misdemeanor to release them, and you don't want that, I know. So it's really important to keep it confidential, and you will have a lot of experienced superintendents for whom keeping it confidential is extraordinarily important. They might not have applied if they thought their names were going to be released. So, okay, I think, Madam Chair, that is all we have. Am I missing anything, Jim? Is that pretty much
Got it all there.
Okay, great. It's been a pleasure to see you even this way. Sorry we're having to do this way, but life has changed. I hope all of you are well and taking good care of yourselves and enjoying the fact that we're at least getting some spring weather and we can open the windows and get fresh air. Be happy about the spring. So we look forward to seeing you. Even if it's this way, we look forward to seeing you next time.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Does
Thank you
anyone
very
have any
much.
questions? Anyone have any questions? No? All right. Thank you.
Thank you. We will sign
Allison.
off.
Thank you, Jim. All right. Working through, again, item 5, information policies for first reading. Ms. Nichols, before we get started, I do want to mention that we are going to be pulling the remote meeting policy at this time, since
Yes.
there are some changes that need to be made. So if we could pull that one, okay? All right, but if you'd like to proceed on policies for first reading.
Okay, and I apologize for my late logging in. It was a challenge to get back, so I'm glad to be here. These policies for information only, first reading. We have the first one, you can see policy 1240. It's our original board policy. I do want you to know that we had our Zoom board meeting with our new staff in Raleigh that's helping us revise our whole manual. And it was a wonderful, productive meeting. And so if you look at 1240, it no longer is going to be our main policy on code of ethics. If you look at 2120, which is the from the School Board Association, they've taken what they've used for other systems, and on page 2 of 2, you can see that we've included some of our thoughts. So we want to make sure that it's all clear. So as you're reading it, anything that you feel that we've left out, because this is a very essential policy for this board. We had some really strong conversation. And if you look on page, the last page, it tells that it was formerly policy 40, but as you recall, they have a different numbering system. So our policy codes will change, but we will keep the old and we will use the new. So we'll have 2 ongoing policies once our policies are adopted. Okay. Have any questions on this particular policy? Mr. Rivenbark, would you like to share any additional information?
No, I think that we're gonna keep the old and the new policy, and then once we completely redo the policy manual, it will just go right to the new one.
Yes, we'll have them side by side so that we can go back and forth until we
Right.
complete,
Okay,
which will be maybe 2 years or longer.
at least.
So as Mrs. Eastep mentioned, we're pulling policy 2302, the remote participation at board meetings, because the General Assembly is working on one, and we want to ensure that we have the same wording in policy. The next policy, assignment to classes, replaces part of policy 6080, which was on nepotism. So they took the part that's related to assignment to classes and included it on the last page, page 3. So to ensure that we're talking about our employees and how these students will be assigned. And the
Ms.
most
Nichols, do you
important-
mind getting closer to your microphone? It's a little hard to hear you.
I'm sorry. The last, number 3, children of school system teachers. We want to ensure that this is very clear, how these children are assigned, that it does not prevent a student who is, if there's no other opportunity, then the student could be placed in a relative classroom teacher, or classroom teachers that they have some family talent. Whatever, communications or. So we looked at every possibility, and I think we've covered everything that makes it a fair placement for students. We have a cross-reference, and if you'll notice that we'll get the adopted date, but we'll also keep the old policy so that we can refer to it before we take everything out of a certain policy and place it in another one. Any questions on this one? And I will say Dr. Burns was with us every step, so he has guided us through some of the wording as well. The last policy, 8432, use of service animals. Mrs. Stagner talked about this at our policy committee meeting, and how on the first page of our old policy that we did talk about, we needed proof of vaccination for miniature horses, and because that is not state law, we did not need that information. It was incorrect. So that has been removed, and if you look at the next slide, 8432, is the revised policy. But note, this was not taken on by our new School Board Association assistant. So it will remain in the old policy until we establish a new policy and put it in a different file. Have any questions? And Dr. Burns, I'm sure he and his staff will develop the procedures that will go with this particular policy so that we'll have ready for the training of principals and staff before the school year starts. Is that correct, Dr. Burns?
Yes, ma'am. We will take care of the training of all the principals and assistant principals over the summer. We'll have that done before August 31st.
Thank you very much. And that concludes our policy committee report.
All right.
Ms. Nichols, if I could just ask one question,
Yes, sir.
and Dr. Burns, if you could chime in on this. Just because a support animal is not entitled to enter the building, I don't want to create the impression that our school system is hostile to support animals. We have one in a school already, and I know there are several conversations ongoing about adding other locations. Could you just speak to that and clarify that, yes, support animals are, going to be considered? They're not automatically dismissed as not being allowed into a building. They just need special permission. Is that correct?
Are you talking about service or support?
Yeah, there's a difference of
Support
service
animals.
animals and
Yes.
support.
Service animals have to be.
No, support animals.
No.
Support.
Isn't it different?
Service animals are the only ones allowed in the school by the
That's-
American Disabilities
that's
Act.
not correct.
I'm sorry?
That's not my understanding.
No, they look at the policy.
It says that with express permission from the assistant superintendent for student support and the principal on site, support animals, not service
Correct.
animals, are
Right.
allowed.
I think you said service animals, that's what was confusion.
Yeah, I'm confused about it. I have to go back and read that because the only thing that's allowed are the service.
So the emotional support animals are allowed with the permission of the principal and the assistant superintendent of student support. That's my understanding of
And,
the
and
policy.
the United States government.
Right, but there's
It's not us. They tell us what to do on that
for service animals.
for service, right?
But students are support animals, emotional support animals are in a different category,
Yes.
Right.
but they are still allowed.
Ms. Farnham and Ms. Stagner,
no.
do you want to weigh in on that?
Yes, Julie, could you, excuse me, Ms. Varnum, could you clarify that?
Yep. We have Ms. Farnham and Ms. Stagner on the line.
Yes,
Thank
I was
you.
going to let Ms. Stagner go ahead and speak to that. She's been in close consultation with the Office of Civil Rights, and then I'll add in.
So the law, any service animal that is trained to provide a task or service for an individual with a disability is entitled to be on school property, and there is, there are very clear regulations under the Individuals with Disabilities Act, Americans with Disabilities Act, and Section 504, and the Department of Justice that allow service animals, and the school cannot put on any additional requirements other than that the service animal provides a task for an individual with a disability. And so the proof of vaccination requirement was an additional requirement that's not mandated by law, and so that's the reason for taking that out. There is a distinction between a service animal and a support or a comfort animal. And so those comfort animals, those emotional support animals are not given the same right of access to the schools or any public location. Your policy does indicate that a non-service animal can be allowed in the discretion of the administration. And so I think that's what Mr. Bullier was pointing out, is that the policy contemplates that other support animals, emotional support or comfort animals, may be allowed, but there is not that automatic right. And there does need to be some review and consideration of the needs and the impact that it might have on other students and staff in the instructional program.
Right. Thank you, Ms. Stagner. I completely agree. And I think the one word that's the main difference is the entitlement. We know that pets, comfort animals, and other emotional support animals are not entitled, while service animals are entitled to be on the campus.
I was wrong, you were right.
Mr. Buller, did that help you with your question?
No, absolutely. I just wanted to make it clear, when it says that they are not entitled in black lettering, I want to make it clear to the public that while they are not entitled, while support animals are not entitled the same way that service animals are, we are certainly not hostile to the idea of having them in a building with special permission. That was what I wanted to get across.
Okay, good. I think the procedures probably will address that, and so that we have consistency within our school system, so that one school doesn't, or parent doesn't feel that administrator is being unfair to them while another administrator would allow something. So I think the training will be very important to ensure that we're doing the right thing for our children.
Absolutely.
Okay, any other discussion around that topic? All right. Thank you, Ms. Farnham and Ms. Stagner, for weighing in. Moving on to item C, quarterly budget summary, Ms. Small.
Thank you. This is the quarterly summary as of the end of March, and it shows us about 76% spent, as of the third quarter. This is just for information, and I'd be glad to answer any questions you have.
Does anyone have any questions? All right.
Thank you.
I don't hear any. Thank you. Item number 6, recognition of achievement, community partner, Latino Alliance.
The district is pleased to continue board recognitions. Despite current circumstances and limitations, district students and staff continue to rise above and be their best selves. This evening, we would like to highlight those educators and students who were to be honored prior to COVID-19. Before we get into those recognitions, we would like to highlight a community partner who has been instrumental in assisting and working with the district in the midst of this crisis. The Latino Alliance is an organization under our partners at the University of North Carolina at Wilmington. The Alliance works closely with Latinx families and communities to ensure equitable communication and access is available to our Spanish-speaking population. As soon as it was announced that schools were going to be closed along with other organizations, the Latino Alliance rallied to offer support and assistance to the district. They took part in the delivery services and were vital to Operation Ring and Run. With us this evening, we have Amanda Boomersheim with UNCW Department of World Languages and Cultures and Latino Alliance.
Good evening. My name is Amanda Boomersheim, and I am happy to be here this evening to tell you all a little bit about the UNCW Latino Alliance of Southeastern North Carolina. The mission of the Alliance is to build a stronger network among Latinx residents and those organizations that serve the community, as well as to empower local citizens and the organizations that serve the Latinx community by creating positive change. And we focus mainly on the areas of education, business, healthcare, safety, and community building. The Latino Alliance is led by the University of North Carolina, Wilmington, and serves basically as a network and a platform from which to access resources, share information, and discuss issues, both of progress and of challenges still to overcome. Some of the recent initiatives that we have been working on over the last year or so are One Community Dialogues. One Community Dialogues is essentially a series of meetings with residents of the region and community partners or stakeholders. This, over the last year, we have focused on public safety, public health, especially around COVID-19, and more recently on education. Within public safety, we have had meetings with the Wilmington Police Department, the New Hanover County Sheriff's Office, and the District Attorney. In public health, we have worked with the Health Department, the New Hanover Regional Medical Center, and other healthcare providers. After Hurricane Florence, the Latino Alliance worked with community partners, including the Red Cross, to provide meals, household goods, clothing, and other resources to families that were affected by the hurricane, but that were perhaps otherwise not eligible for resources. We also connected Latinx families in the community with resources. During COVID-19 and the closure of schools, the Latino Alliance has worked to collect laptops that were donated by community members and redistribute them to students in the school system. The goal here is to break the digital divide in this region by providing access to virtual learning for all students, even if they do not own a laptop in their home. And by the way, if you have a laptop that you no longer need, let us know. We would love to collect it and redistribute it to a student so that they have a laptop that they now own in their family. Also related to COVID-19, the Latino Alliance network of volunteers has delivered over 450 bags of non-perishable foods donated by Nourish NC. We have also partnered with the YMCA to help facilitate access to their meal delivery service of New Hanover County Schools meals. We have partnered with the school system itself to deliver meals to over 750 children across 17 predominantly Latinx communities before bus delivery was available to those communities. And we also partner with the Diaper Bank to deliver diapers, feminine products, and formula to families on a weekly basis. Specifically related to New Hanover County Schools, in addition to partnering with you to deliver meals and ensure that children who are food insecure have access to those school meals while schools are closed, we also had our first One Community Dialogue meeting on education on April 23rd. At that meeting, we discussed communication with Spanish-speaking families. We talked about the implicit bias training that licensed personnel are receiving in the district. We also looked at hiring practices by the district in ways that perhaps the district could maximize the number of bilingual personnel being hired. And we talked about some learning challenges related to COVID-19 that are specific to the Latinx community. Coming out of that meeting, there were 4 main goals to follow up on, including how Spanish-speaking families could in the future opt in to receive their Connect 5 calls in Spanish. We also requested that the Google Translate button that is available on some of the web pages in the district be moved to an area on the website that is easier to find for Spanish-speaking families. As I mentioned earlier, we'd like to learn about your practices for prioritizing bilingual hires, and we'd love to learn more about the Latinx initiatives coming out of the district. Also, on April 30th, we had a bilingual Facebook Live session led by the Alliance with the help of several Spanish-speaking teachers in the district. And they went over different education platforms that are being used during virtual learning, including Seesaw, Canvas, Google Classroom, PowerSchool, and email. This can be accessed off of the UNCW Latino Alliance Facebook page if you're interested in viewing the Facebook Live session. And coming up on May 14th, we have our second meeting of One Community Dialogues focused on education. And everyone is invited to attend. We look forward to continuing this partnership to ensure that the needs of the Latinx community are being met. You can reach the co-leaders of the Alliance by our emails here, Edelmira Segovia and myself, Amanda Boomershine. Thank you.
All of them. So we are having some technical trouble with the videos. I don't think anyone has any sound, so we apologize for that. We are going to just plan on doing those at a later date and just keep going with the rest of our meeting. So again, we apologize to everyone for that technical trouble, and we will definitely get all of those recognitions back for the next time. So we will move on to item number 7, Superintendent's Report. Dr. Burns?
Madam Chair, members of the board, as you certainly know, today, Tuesday, May 5th, is Teacher and School Staff Appreciation Day. Especially during this very challenging time, the work that teachers and school staffs have undertaken and are successfully completing is truly amazing, and we all owe them a debt of gratitude. It's clear to me that the work that goes on in school buildings every day during normal times is always amazing, but in this particular time, addressing the challenges, providing the support for students is amazing in ways that we have never imagined. This truly is a matter that is unprecedented, and teachers, those who support teachers in school buildings, have all risen to the challenge and are doing great work. So I would like to commend them at this point for the work they do. There are a number of items that I'll share with you briefly. Just this afternoon, Governor Cooper has made an announcement regarding restrictions. We are moving into a different phase at this point, beginning Friday at 5 p.m. At this point, to our understanding, there is no change to public schools, and as a result, we'll continue to follow the calendar that the board has adopted. Students are not to return to school during this particular school year. On Saturday, our General Assembly passed two bills, COVID-19 Relief Act. One addressed funding, that was in the House. The other addressed policy, that was in the Senate. There's impact on calendar, remote learning, assessments, and funding for 2020 and 2021 school year. There are a number of categories of funding for the Department of Public Instruction that will come to LEAs, and we will learn more about how they'll be allotted in the coming days and the potential uses for those funds. The COVID response packages requires the submission of two major plans. There's a summer learning plan that's due June 22nd, 2020. Folks in instruction and accountability are working through that, and they'll continue to develop the plan for presentation to the board. And also a remote learning plan is due July 20th. There are 13 points that are required to be addressed in that plan. It is very comprehensive, and it will address remote learning for the coming year. Class size reduction implementation has not been delayed in the legislation, although there is some indication that that particular law and others might be addressed in a coming session of the General Assembly. So at this point, we are not going to move forward with class size reduction until we know more about future action of the General Assembly. With impact on the calendar included in the legislation, the start date and the end date for the upcoming school year are specified. August 17th is the start date, the opening date for students, and the closing date will be no later than June 11th, 2021. We are looking at additional days built into the calendar, 5 additional remote learning days to be included in the calendar to be determined by the LEA. There also will be an additional 5 days for a total of 190 days of instruction. This, of course, applies to traditional calendar schools. Year-round calendar schools will not be held to the start date and the end date. One interesting part of the legislation is that if a state of emergency is issued or a disaster declared in the upcoming school year, and that lasts 5 days or more, LEAs may provide remote instruction to satisfy instructional time requirements. We're still reviewing the legislation and the impact on New Hanover County schools. There certainly will be more to come. There's a calendar committee meeting scheduled tomorrow, and we'll have additional information about the calendar impact at that time. Graduation is still on our minds. It will soon be June 13th to be exact, which is the date currently on the calendar for New Hanover County Schools graduation. Not knowing the conditions or the restrictions that might be present at the time, there are 2 task forces that have begun their work. The first meeting of one of the task forces occurred today. There is a task force for non-traditional high schools and a task force for traditional high schools. The composition is that the senior class president The faculty, senior class advisor, and the principal from each high school will be involved. The deputy superintendent, the director of secondary education, and the director of safety for the district will be involved, as well as a public health official. The meeting today was to provide information. There'll be a series of meetings. We are looking forward to the recommendation that will come. Involving students is especially important, and I'm very excited that they will be at the table and have a voice. Previously, the district surveyed families regarding graduation and interests and preferences. We had over 1,000 responses, which is great information that will be used by the task forces. We will continue to be thoughtful and deliberate and take into account the guidance, requirements, and the restrictions associated with COVID-19 and make the best decision possible going forward. A few other updates, if I might. With our meal program, we are at the point we've served over 300,000 meals at 20 sites and 50 neighborhood bus stops. We partnered with multiple groups, including the YMCA, to deliver meals to homes. With respect to electronic devices, technology has deployed almost 4,900 electronic devices. Many of our schools provide Wi-Fi access outside, and we're still working to obtain hotspots to share with families and with teachers who need them. Remote learning has been a very interesting opportunity for us. And again, as I mentioned at the beginning, teachers especially have risen to this challenge. They've had to think in ways that they have not thought before. They've had to act in ways that we didn't contemplate, and they are rising to the challenge. With remote learning beginning March 16th, we have been thinking about and considering our access, and we've been recording that. At the point now that we find ourselves, less than 1% of the students in New Hanover County schools we have not yet been able to reach, which is remarkable. We are reaching more than 99% of the students at least once since that time. And as a breakdown, less than 0.5% in elementary have not yet been reached, less than 0.2% in middle school, and in high school, approximately 2%. So in our first month of remote learning, we also surveyed our teachers to assess the effectiveness of the process and to make improvements to support them. We had over 1,200 respondents in 45 schools. All of them were represented. Some of the information we've learned is that the majority of teachers are using Google Classroom. Some, approximately a third, are using Seesaw as a platform. The majority of teachers are providing online assignments and using check-in phone calls and synchronous meetings. About a third of our teachers are providing take-home packets and using offline activities distributed online. Almost half of our teachers are giving new assignments for students daily, and timely feedback and frequent communication with students and parents, they are key for us, as is establishing a routine, making it fun, and just being there for social, emotional support for students during this very difficult time. So given where we started, there's been great progress made. It is clear, unfortunately, that remote learning is not the same as face-to-face instruction. However, given the circumstances, teachers, again, are to be commended for their hard work and their good work. And finally, I'd like to share with you information regarding complaint resolution in the district. And Ms. Baggy, if you could put up the workflow chart, if you'll scroll down, please, just a bit. Early on, it was clear, based on conversations with you, members of the board, that addressing matters related to complaints and their resolution was a top priority that you wanted me to consider. I began to assess the situation. I have met with a number of individuals. I've looked at structures and processes. And over a period of weeks, I've been meeting with the director of Title IX, the assistant superintendent for student support, and the leaders in human resources. We have focused on the structures and the processes and the necessary training to put together a system that is aligned and integrates Title IX, HR, and student support, providing the support as well for building level administrators to resolve complaints and allegations of misconduct and inappropriate behavior. So we are focused on reporting, review, and resolution of complaints. And what you see is a workflow, a very high-level workflow. And I'll walk you briefly through this. Considering that a complaint can be filed many different ways, we use Ethics 360 as an online portal. Complaints can be made anonymously. Some complaints come in email form. Some come by a telephone call. Some arise at the building level. Some arise at the central office level. And having a way to record, address, and review, then resolve the complaints was our goal. And at the same time, to provide a strong level of internal control and accountability. What we have developed over a period of weeks working with the individuals that I mentioned is a workflow that allows us to record complaints and allegations, to place them in the best place for resolution and review based on whether it's an employee, a student, or an other situation, and then tie it also to Title IX so that if there are Title IX allegations, they can be addressed. And so just as an example, if a complaint is filed, if an allegation is made, and it goes into Ethics 360, the director of Title IX will review the initial complaint to determine, is there a Title IX component? And is it an employee or a student that's involved? If it's an employee, then it will be passed to Human Resources. And in the future, when an assistant superintendent for Human Resources is hired, that person will be the first stop. If it's not related to Title IX, Human Resources will investigate and resolve the matter. If it is related to Title IX, that will occur in consultation with the director of Title IX. Involved also will be legal counsel as necessary for any of these processes. And in the coming weeks, we will recommend to the board a candidate to be hired as an HR investigator to support the process. If there is an allegation that comes and it involves a student, if it's related to Title IX, of course, the director of Title IX will be involved. If there's a question, there'll be a consultation. We will be supporting building level administrators as they do their work to review and resolve matters at the building level if students are involved. In some cases, we have other allegations, other complaints that come in, and they will be addressed in student support services. They'll be reviewed as all allegations, complaints will be for any Title IX matter. And if there is a Title IX component, Title IX will be involved. If not, it'll be resolved. An example of an other might be that there's a complaint filed that a student received a grade and the student or the parent believes it to be not a fair grade. Well, there is a grievance policy that the board policy provides that can be followed. And so it might be directed back to the building, to the principal or the teacher for resolution. What this allows is, again, the integration and the alignment of work through the different areas that are involved: Title IX, Human Resources, Student Support Services, and the buildings. Training is going to be necessary. We have to provide training and support for building administrators, for central office employees going forward. In terms of accountability, as I shared, internal control was key here. These processes can be audited. I've had conversation with the internal auditor for the district, and she and I will have additional conversation. There can be, there should be, there has to be review of the processes to ensure that they are being followed so that the Board of Education and the community knows that they have integrity, that they're being provided with fidelity. Underneath this, and this is a very high-level workflow for HR, for student support, and for the other allegations and complaints, there are sub-workflows. Each department, each area has parallel workflows that they have put together that we have worked hard to make sure that they do meet the requirements that we've set forth in terms of reporting, reviewing, and resolving allegations and complaints. It's taken a while. I have to commend the work that Jarrell Lewis as Title IX Director, Julie Varnum as Assistant Superintendent for Student Support Services, Anthony Manzo and Brian Martin working in HR at this moment, have done to help design this. We've discussed it. The next step for us is going to be to have the training in place, and we hope to begin that in the coming weeks. It's quite a long report this evening, members of the board and Madam Chair. I'd be happy to answer any questions that you might have.
Who has questions?
I don't really have a question so much as I would like to thank everybody that worked on this. This is the way it should be, and it should be great as far as accountability and consistency and fairness.
I'd add my thanks to everybody. Dr. Burns, I know I've said several times, I think it's critical not to let the immediate and the urgent cloud out the very important. And with this, you've satisfied both. You're doing a lot of work, I know, around the COVID-19 response, but this was really important. And I'm very grateful that you've got it done and got it done so quickly. So thank you very much.
Certainly. And one thing that I would add, and we've had this discussion, at a future date, perhaps 6-7 months from now, this process should be reviewed. It needs to be assessed. Is it working as intended? If there are modifications that need to be made, if there are major changes, I would let it run for a period of time and then have that assessment, and staff will make the necessary adjustments. It's been very clear to me at the building level, at the central level, in HR, in student support, in Title IX, everyone wants this to be effective. It is very important to them. And that's something I think that you as a board need to know, because people work hard. They've done a great job with this. And I'm looking forward to an assessment in the coming months so that you can make certain that it's meeting your needs. If there are no other questions, Madam Chair, that concludes my report this evening.
All right. No other questions? All right. Thank you, Dr. Burns. Item number 8, Board Chairperson's Report. Last month, Dr. Burns did bring up the fact that we would be moving to Assembly, and I just wanted to give a brief overview about Assembly, just to remind everyone, Assembly is a cloud-based management software that will allow our board and eventually other school groups to manage meetings, agendas, and do planning in real time. So I think it's going to be a great tool for our board, and will also allow us to help build awareness in the community with what we're doing with our board activities. It'll give the community more access to our information. So it's just generally going to be just a great, I think, as I said before, a great tool. As you can see on the screen right now, if you go on to the New Hanover County Schools page, we do have Assembly up and running right now, kind of a sample page. And if you look on the top of the screen, you can see that one of the great features of Assembly is it does allow for, again, it gives you extra access. So if you look on the top, you see those buttons. It allows you to do a search. It allows an ADA accessible view. I'm pointing as if you guys can see what I'm pointing to, but I can't help it, sorry. It also allows you, if you click on the English button up here, Anita, can you see? Can you point to it? It allows for our non-English speaking families to choose their language, which I think is awesome. I don't know if anyone speaks Scots Gaelic, but if they want to look at things in Scots Gaelic, they certainly can, which I think is really amazing. So it just increases, like I said, it increases awareness of what we are doing. It allows the community to see what we're doing, and allows us to actually interact with our agenda in a greater way, in a greater fashion. So our first rollout of this at a meeting will be on May 12th at the policy committee meeting. We will also be using it at our next board meeting. So again, I'm very excited. There's a community toolkit that Assembly provides that we will be rolling out with newsletters, different ways of, again, making the community aware, and the board will be participating in a brief training as well. So, are there any questions? If not, that concludes my report. Moving on to item 9, committee reports. There have been no committee reports turned in, so we will move to item 10, consensus items. Item A, personnel. Dr. Burns.
Madam Chair, members of the board, the personnel report as presented is given to you for your consideration this evening.
Okay, you all have had a chance to see this report. Is there a motion to approve the personnel report?
Move to approve.
All right, the motion is by Mr. Bullier. Is there a second?
Second.
There's a second by Ms. Justice. Ms. Adams, how do you vote?
Aye.
There's an aye for Ms. Adams. Mr. Bullier?
Aye.
Ms. Justice?
Aye.
Ms. Nichols? Ms. Nichols is muted.
Oh.
All right.
I'm muted.
Okay,
Aye.
I'm sorry, say that one more time.
Aye.
All right, Ms. Nichols votes aye. Mr. Rivenbark?
Aye.
Mr. Wortman?
Aye.
All right, and I vote aye. So that is a unanimous vote, 7-0. Item B, budget amendments, Ms. Small.
Thank you. I recommend that the budget amendments submitted for both state and the general fund be approved.
All right, you have before you the budget amendment recommendation. Budget amendment recommendations. Is there a motion to approve?
Move to approve.
Ms. Justice made the motion to approve. Is there a second?
Mr. Bullier, second.
Mr. Bullier is a second. Ms. Adams, how do you vote?
Aye.
Ms. Adams is an aye. Mr. Bullier?
Aye.
Ms. Justice?
Aye.
I'm sorry?
Aye.
Okay, Ms. Justice is an aye. Ms. Nichols?
Aye.
Mr. Rivenbark?
Aye.
Mr. Wortman?
Aye.
I am also an aye. It is a 7-0 aye vote.
Thank you. I did want to mention that this, the state amendment does not include the recently approved increase in state funding, and we expect to bring that back to you in June.
Okay, great. Thank you. We love more money. All right. Item C, change of school assignments. Ms. Barnum?
Yes, Madam Chairperson and fellow board members, it is requested that you consider approval of the change of school assignments as presented.
All right, thank you. Is there a motion to approve the change of school assignments as presented?
Mr. Bullier, so moved.
Mr. Bullier made the motion. Is there a second?
Stephanie
Second.
Adams. I'm sorry.
That's
All right.
okay. You go right ahead.
Ms. Adams is the second.
Yes.
Ms. Adams, how do you vote?
Aye.
Aye. Mr. Bullier?
Aye.
Ms. Justice?
Aye.
Ms. Nichols?
Aye.
Mr. Rivenbark?
Aye.
Mr. Wortman?
Aye.
And I vote aye. So it is a 7-0 vote in favor. Thank you.
Thank you.
Item 11, new business. Item A, policy 6235, teacher contracts. Dr. Brian Martin, welcome.
Good evening. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I hope you can hear me okay. As you're well aware, the issues that surround COVID-19 have had a wide-ranging effect on our community and certainly on our school system. And the closing of school facilities for students on March 16th really resulted in a lot of our hardworking teachers and principals and other employees basically reinventing the way we serve students. And in addition to the obvious changes to our basic operations, there have been some collateral effects, and among them, the way staff are evaluated and consequently the method by which we provide new contracts for the 2020-21 school year. Teachers, and I'm going to apologize for very dry information I need to share with you that justifies why we need to do this. Teachers and some support staff, such as psychologists, speech language pathologists, and social workers, among others, are evaluated using the North Carolina Educator Evaluation System that's often referred to as NHCS. And NHCS has an online portal through which these individuals and their principals or other supervisors complete their professional development plans, their formal observations, and ultimately their summary evaluation for the year. And it is a NHCS requirement that these individuals be observed a certain number of times prior to the completion of the summary evaluation at the end of the year. For most, that entails 3 formal observations by their supervisor. Those observations are spread out throughout the year in order to gain a good picture of the totality of their performance. At the end of the year, principals and supervisors use the information gained from these formal observations, as well as from informal observations, to complete the summary evaluation. And at each of a number of standards, they are rated as, from lowest to highest, not demonstrated, developing, proficient, accomplished, or distinguished. However, if the appropriate number of observations have not been completed, the online system does not allow a summary evaluation to be done. When buildings closed for students on March the 26th, over 20% of the school year remained, and the vast majority of teachers and support staff had understandably not yet received the requisite number of observations. When school systems sought guidance from DPI on how we should move forward with teacher evaluations while we were basically locked out of the system, we were informed that the system was not validated for use in observing online instruction and that completing the summary evaluation instrument without all necessary observations was not appropriate, again, because the instrument was not validated except when using a full observation cycle. As a result, Human Resources, in consultation with our attorney, settled on an alternative method of evaluation for those teachers and support staff who would not be able to receive their normal summary evaluation. Using such a method was approved by the State Board of Education in a meeting about 2 weeks ago. Teachers who did receive the requisite number of evaluations prior to March the 16th will be evaluated just as normal in the NHCS system. But the majority of teachers will not, since they really fall into 2 categories. Within the teachers that will be evaluated outside of NHCS, there are those who were successful in demonstrating proficiency in their teaching and those who did not. The vast majority of teachers will be in the former category and will receive an abbreviated evaluation form noting their success with appropriate comments in support of that rating. Teachers who did not reach an appropriate level of proficiency will receive a more detailed evaluation, but still with the basic, did they or did they not reach proficiency rating. Principals and other supervisors have been trained on this 1-year process, and last week I had a Zoom meeting with the president and incoming presidents of the school system's NCAE membership, as well as the NCAE UniServe representative. They were very accepting of this process. However, for lack of a better term, this pass-fail method of evaluating teachers this year has consequences with regard to contract renewals. Board Policy 6235, Teacher Contracts, spells out the criteria for determining the length of teacher contracts. Teachers who have taught successfully in New Hanover County schools for at least 3 years and who have received a rating of accomplished on at least 2 standards of their summary evaluation are eligible for a 2-year contract. Teachers who meet several other criteria and receive a rating of accomplished on the majority of standards on their summary evaluation are eligible for a 4-year contract. All other teacher contracts are for 1 year. As a result of the issues I've shared with you today, it is not possible for most teachers to achieve ratings of accomplished. Only a small number of teachers whose observation schedule was completed can be rated as such. Therefore, to provide multi-year contracts to that small number while giving all others a 1-year contract would be arbitrary and capricious. There's no justification for giving different types of contracts to employees based solely on where they fell on the school's evaluation calendar. Therefore, we are recommending that Policy 6235 be waived for contracts issued for the 2021 school year. Instead, we recommend that all teachers whose contracts expire June 30th, 2020, and who are reemployed for the 2020-21 school year be provided with 1-year contracts. Naturally, teachers who have career status or whose contracts extend through the 2021 school year will not be affected. Neither will teachers who do not meet the 3-year service requirement or who are not otherwise in good standing. As a result, about 125 teachers who might possibly otherwise have been eligible for multi-year contracts would receive a one-year contract instead. We appreciate the board's consideration of this recommendation. I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
So you're not punishing the ones that got everything done. You're just making it even for everybody.
Yes, sir. Basically, whether someone did or did not get their observations was completely outside the control of the teacher themselves.
Right.
Principals just put together a calendar at the beginning of the year as to who's going to be observed at what time, and it just happened that some teachers had reached that plateau by March 16th, but the vast majority did not. So if we rewarded those teachers with a multi-year contract because of no additional effort on their part, but denied contracts to those who had not yet been observed the requisite number of times, it would really be unfair and arbitrary.
So all we're doing is putting it off for 1 year.
Yes, sir. Nobody's losing their job. Nobody's losing a contract. It's just that rather than getting a 2 or 4 year contract, if they might have otherwise been eligible, they're going to get a 1 year contract, and then we can pick right up next year this time and provide 2 and 4 year contracts, because hopefully everything will be back to some state of normal, and we'll be evaluating teachers in our standard process by that time, and we'll have the criteria that is required by this policy in order to determine who gets 1, 2, and 4 year contracts. And look, we don't want to hurt any teachers. We don't want to, we love our teachers. They're working so hard, but there's just really no way to do this that's fair to everyone involved if we don't waive this policy.
Well, if you explain it to them the way you just explained it to us, I think everything will be okay.
Well, I did share with the NCAE president and incoming president and their UNISERV representative that this was something that would be considered by the board. I told them that the board, as an elected body, would make that decision, but I said, this is what's being considered. How do you feel about it? And the response from the UNISERV rep and the president and incoming president was, that sounds like a fair plan. They did not have any objection. And I promised them if the board, whatever decision the board made, I would provide them with kind of talking points to help share this with their membership.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Dr. Martin, I would like to thank you for going above and beyond and contacting NCAE, the local representative of all the teachers, and also the UNISERV. That communication is very important, and providing them talking points will help teachers understand. I think not just the 125 teachers that are going to be impacted, I think other teachers will have interest in this, because we need for folks to know that we will not operate in an arbitrary and capricious manner, that we work hard to be fair.
Mm-hmm. Yes, sir.
Any other questions? If not, I would entertain a motion to approve the waiver of policy 6235 as recommended.
Mr. Bollier, so moved.
All right, Mr. Buller made the motion. Is there a second?
I second. Bill Rivenbark.
All right, thank you. Ms. Adams, how do you vote?
Aye.
Mr. Bullier?
Aye.
Ms. Justice?
Aye.
Ms. Nichols?
Aye.
Mr. Rivenbark?
Aye.
Mr. Wortman?
Aye.
And I, Lisa Eastep, vote aye. It is a 7-0 vote, a 7-0 vote to accept. Thank you very much, Dr. Martin. Item B, disposal of surplus. Ms. Small?
Thank you. I recommend the board's approval to dispose of surplus property no longer necessary or desirable for public school purposes. Contingent on your approval, we have scheduled an online auction to run May 30th through June 30th.
I'm going to ask how we were planning on doing that, so thank you for anticipating that question. All right, you have heard the recommendation. Is there a motion to approve item number B?
Move for approval.
Is there a second?
Stephanie Adams, second.
All right, any questions? Hearing none. Ms. Adams, how do you vote?
Aye.
Mr. Bullier?
Aye.
Ms. Justice?
Aye.
Ms. Nichols?
Aye.
Mr. Rivenbark?
Aye.
Mr. Wortman?
Aye.
And I vote aye. It is a 7-0 vote.
Thank you.
Thank you. Item C, the 2020-2021 Title I application. Dr. Smith?
Yes, good evening, members of the board. I would ask that the board approve the district making application for Title I funding for the 2020-21 school year.
All right, you have heard the recommendation. Are there any questions? Hearing none, is there a motion to approve?
Move for approval.
All right, Mr. Boyer made the motion. Is there a second?
Second?
Ms. Justice is the second. Ms. Adams, how do you vote?
Aye.
There's an aye for Ms. Adams. Mr. Boyer?
Aye.
Ms. Justice?
Aye.
Ms. Nichols?
Aye.
Mr. Rivenbark?
Aye.
Mr. Wortman?
Aye.
And I vote aye. So it is a 7-0 vote.
Thank you very much.
All right, thank you. Item D, athletic field maintenance service contract renewal. Mr. Anderson?
Thank you. Good evening, Madam Chair and members of the board. Tonight, we're asking for your approval to renew the athletic field maintenance service contract with our current contractor, Sweetwater Landscapes LLC, for a total cost of $407,823. This will be for the fiscal year 2020-21.
It's at Hoggard soccer field and football field.
This will include Hoggard football field. These are all the athletic fields for our traditional high schools and middle schools, and it does include the Hoggard Stadium.
Dr. Anderson, when was the last time this contract went out for bid?
It went out to bid a year ago. There was only one bidder, and we had to rebid, which you can see the delay. The last time the board approved this was August 6th, and that was in 2019 for the 19-20 fiscal year. So this would be the second year. I'll tell you, we haven't had a lot of interest in this. You mentioned Hoggard in particular. We have been out to Hoggard with the contractor. They have made some improvements, and just this past week, maintenance met with them. There are a couple other things that they wanted them to do. I think overall, our athletic fields are in good condition. As you know, one of the challenges that we have with our fields is just overuse. And during the whole COVID-19 event, that has given us an opportunity to keep people off of our fields. And what we're trying to do is take advantage of this time also to get ahead in some of our maintenance work, fertilizing and so forth. So this is the right time of year to do that, and renewing the contract will allow us to move forward with those activities.
But in general, you found the vendor to be responsive?
We have. This is, it's the second year, and this will be the second year. They have been responsive to our request and willing to work up with us when we have specific concerns.
Okay.
We recommend moving forward with them.
Any other questions from the board? Go ahead.
Eddie, I don't mean this anything against you, but I'm not impressed with the crowd that's doing the field. If they would just let the field stay the way it is right now and then do some work on it after football season, I'd vote for it. But I'm not interested in just making it real pretty for the football team and then all the other spring teams have to play on dirt. Sorry.
No, I understand completely, and again, I think that, given the current situation and the use of the fields or lack of use of the fields right now, we have a real opportunity to make some improvements, specifically at Hoggard. And like I said, we've met with them a couple of times, and we intend to do that.
Is this a one-year contract?
This is a one-year contract.
Okay,
It's,
I'll vote for that, but if at the end of this, next year, this time, if it looks like it has for the past 5 or 6, 7 years, I would, of course, hopefully I'm not gonna be here, but I would not ever support it.
Eddie, didn't you say this is the first year that this particular group had the contract?
I'm not sure who is asking that.
Oh, this is Miss Justice.
I'm sorry.
Didn't-
Yes,
That's
ma'am.
okay.
They were the low bidder last year, and this would be they've just completed the first year, and this would be the second year.
So they weren't the ones doing it for the last 5 years, say, so.
That's correct, and we have tried different things, as you're aware, and I think that we have made some improvements. I think we're on the right path. I wish we were further along, but I think our maintenance department and Sweetwater working together, have a plan. And unfortunately, especially with the athletic turf, it does take some time. Yeah. But we have a real opportunity right now to make some improvements and get ahead.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Hearing none, I would entertain a motion to approve item number D, athletic field maintenance service contract renewal.
Move for approval.
There's a motion from Mr. Bullier. Who was the second?
David.
All right, Mr. Wortman was the second. Ms. Adams, how do you vote?
Aye.
That's an aye from Ms. Adams. Mr. Bullier?
Aye.
Ms. Justice?
Aye.
Ms. Nichols?
Aye.
There you are. Mr. Rivenbark?
No.
All right. It's a nay from Mr. Rivenbark. Mr. Wortman?
Aye.
And I will vote aye. So it's 6-1. With Mr. Rivenbark being the no. All right, item E, purchase of right-of-way and temporary construction easement at Parsley Elementary School. Mr. Anderson?
Thank you, Madam Chair. We're asking for the board's approval of the purchase of right-of-way and temporary construction easement at Parsley Elementary School. The City of Wilmington, as part of the 2015 transportation bond, included a multi-use path along Masonboro Loop Road. And that would include passing in front of Parsley Elementary School. We think this is a real benefit to Parsley Elementary School. They have a lot of walkers and bike riders. This will expand that by providing or improving safety of students accessing the school. So we ask for your approval tonight.
All right, are there any questions for Mr. Anderson? All right, hearing none, is there a motion to approve item number E, purchase of right-of-way and temporary construction easement at Parsley Elementary?
Mr. Bullier, so moved.
All right, there's a motion for Mr. Bullier. Is there a second?
Stephanie Adams, second.
All right, Ms. Adams is a second. Ms. Adams, how do you vote?
Aye.
Mr. Bullier?
Aye.
Ms. Justice?
Aye.
Ms. Nichols?
Aye.
Mr. Rivenbark?
Aye.
Mr. Wortman?
Aye.
and I will vote aye. It is a 7-0 vote.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. Item F, CTE local application 2020-2021. Dr. Smith?
Yes, good evening again. Would ask the board's approval for the district to make application for the 2020-2021 CTE state and federal funding.
All right, are there any questions? All right, hearing none. Is there a motion to approve the application?
Mr. Boyer, move to approve.
All right, Mr. Bullier makes the motion. Is there a second?
Second?
Is that Ms. Justice?
Ms. Justice.
All right, Ms. Justice is the second. Ms. Adams, how do you vote?
Aye.
Mr. Bullier?
Aye.
Ms. Justice?
Aye.
Ms. Nichols?
Aye.
Mr. Rivenbark?
Aye.
Mr. Wortman?
Aye.
I vote aye. It is a 7-0 vote.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Smith. Does any board member, moving on to item 12, does any board member have any correspondence they wish to share? I did neglect to also echo my thank you and my board members' time, or my chairperson's time. Thank you to our teachers. It is Teacher Appreciation Week, and I know all the board members feel the same, that we do want to thank our teachers and let them know that they are valued in so many ways. We recognize the hard work that they are doing, and as we've said before, they had to stop on a dime and change their teaching, and it's truly amazing. Several of the board members were out at schools today, and we heard from all of the principals really how the principals valued that work, how they've kept the students involved and engaged, and the parents as well calm. So it was very heartwarming. So I want to echo what the superintendent said. Does anyone else have anything to say? Any correspondence to share? All right. Item 13, announcements. Item A, Policy Committee of the New Hanover County Board of Education will hold a meeting on Tuesday, May 12th, 2020 at 9 a.m. right here at the Board of Ed Center. And item B, the next regular meeting of the New Hanover County Board of Education will be held on Tuesday, June 20th, 2020 at 5:30 p.m. Again here at the Board of Ed Center.
And that's June the 2nd.
What did I say? Did I say May?
You said 20th.
Okay, I'm sorry. June 2nd, 2020. I got ahead of myself there. Thank you very much for that correction. June 2nd at 5:30.
And Madam Chair, there also is a family communications meeting scheduled for May 13th at 5 p.m.
Okay, so noted. Thank you. And where is the location? Is that here at the Board of Ed Center?
It is actually going to be our first virtual meeting.
Okay. All right, and
Madam Chair.
will you announce if the community wants to tune in, will that be available, that information be available online?
I know that the communications department is working on that. I'm not 100% sure how that is going to be rolled out, but it is going to be a public meeting is my understanding.
Okay, all right. We will wait for more information. All right.
Madam Chair.
Yes, sir.
Also tomorrow at 12 o'clock at the BOE, we will be having a calendar committee meeting to discuss ways forward given the new legislation.
Okay.
But the board should anticipate a calendar change of some kind for the 2020-2021 school year.
Okay, great. Do we know if that will be available online?
It's my understanding that there will be,
Yes.
it is a public
Okay.
meeting and there will be a way to view it online, yes.
Okay, all right, great. Thank you for that. All right. We would now like to, I would like a vote to go back. We need a vote to go back into closed session. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, we need a vote to go back into closed session for the same reasons pursuant to North Carolina General Statutes 143-318-11A3. Is there a motion?
Move for closed session.
All right, there's a motion for Mr. Boyer. Is there a second?
Second, Stephanie Adams.
Okay, there's a second. Ms. Adams, how do you vote?
Aye.
Mr. Boyer?
Aye.
Ms. Justice?
Aye.
Ms. Nichols?
Aye.
Mr. Rivenbark?
Aye.
Mr. Wortman? Mr. Wortman?
Aye.
All right, there's an aye, and I vote aye. It is approved 7-0. We are now in closed session. Thank you very much.
Easton,
Here.
David Wortman,
Aha.
Stephanie Adams,
Here.
Nelson Beaulieu,
Here.
Judy Justice,
Here.
Jeanette Nichols, Bill Rivenbark,
Here.
All right. Okay, Ms. Nichols?
Ms. Nichols, are you here?
She's here, but she's muted. Unmute. All right. Ms. Nichols, you are here.
I am.
All right, great. All right. So I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
Move for adjournment.
All right. There's
Second.
a motion by Mr. Bowyer and a second by
Ms. Justice.
Ms. Justice. All right. There's a motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none. Ms. Adams, how do you vote?
Aye.
Aye. Mr. Bowyer, how do you vote?
Aye.
Aye. Ms. Justice?
Aye.
Aye. Ms. Nichols?
Aye.
Mr. Wortman, can we hear you?
Aye.
Aye. Mr. Rivenbark?
Aye.
And I vote aye. It is unanimous. Thank you all. We are adjourned.